The regular meeting of the City of Charlestown Sanitary Sewer Board. Today is January 19th, 2023. It's 10 a.m. I'll officially call our meeting to order and ask everyone to join and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. We'll do a roll call. Ryan Hodgkins. Present. Nathan Grimes.
Present.
Mayor Hodges is present, as well as Clerk Treasurer Dominic Boomer and our legal counsel, Will Zeller from Cross Brown Todd. We have an agenda. It's been presented. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion from Ryan Hodgkins. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Nathan Grimes. Any edits or changes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. We have our standing business, which includes our correction and approval of our prior meeting minutes and the executive session minutes from our meeting on the 5th of January, our current claims and our payroll allowance docket from December 31st, 2022 to January 14th, 2023. Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
I have a motion to approve from Nathan Grimes.
Second.
Second by Ryan Hodgkins. Any other questions? Hearing none, say aye. Do you approve?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. I don't see anyone signed up for public comment. Hopefully, thank you. Old business. Last time we were together, we discussed the notion of value engineering. And so, Ryan, I think I'll let you take that conversation over and take us down that pathway as we're looking at our new wastewater.
Yeah, absolutely. So, based off our last conversation, I feel it's imperative that we pause from where we're at now with the current 100% design. JTL's done an amazing job on that, and have an independent kind of review. With a review and value engineer, that is kind of a common practice for a project of this size, and I feel like as a board, we should do our due diligence and be good stewards of our residents and ratepayers, make sure that we're not, leaving anything on the table and we're doing it correctly, because it's a project that's going to last decades. It's kind of how I see it. So with that said, I've had many conversations since our last meeting. I actually got to spend a day up in Indianapolis last week with HWC and had great conversations with the president and a room full of very smart people. Learned a lot, and today I'm going to present a contract that you'll have before you to have HWC do the value engineer review for us at a cost of $25,000. With that being said, Eric was nice enough to drive down today and meet with us, and I'm going to let him dive into the scope a little deeper, if you don't mind, Eric, and answer any questions that you all may have based off this contract.
Good morning.
Morning. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, my name is Eric Smith, HWC Engineering. I manage our firm's water resources division. I know we've done a good amount of work for the city, but this is my first time presenting to this board. There's just a little bit of marketing information about our wastewater side. First, I just want to start by saying this is something we've done on our projects. We've had other firms review ours, especially on large projects. It's fairly common practice, so what you're embarking on is not something that's strange, and we've collaborated with other engineers on the same project. In talking with Ryan and knowing the big expenditure of the project and how important it is to the city's future, we offered to do this third-party peer review. Understand time is of the essence, because you're, from what I understand, are hoping to bid or start the bidding process in March. So our proposal is to take a look at the plans and specifications. Obviously, there's a lot of time that goes into developing these, so we're not going to be able to cross-check everything. What we're going to do is basically put another set of eyes on it, review critical things like some of the key hydraulics, look at different processes, see if it makes sense from an operational standpoint, see if maybe we can make some suggestions about where you might want to do things differently, or maybe consider a different piece of equipment or a different type of process. Because honestly, even in our practice, if you're looking at something so long, sometimes you get too focused and you don't consider things that are outside. So those are some things we could offer. We'd give you a little, a debriefing report that would summarize our findings for each of the key areas of the project. Given the time constraints, we would exclude electrical and structural from our review because those would require us to bring in other partners, others, especially consultants, because we don't do electrical in-house. Most firms don't. So, I mean, if that was something you want to look at, we could potentially bring somebody in, but the way I've set this up, we've excluded that at this point. And here, I probably should have handed this out before I started talking, but here's a copy of our cover letter and the proposal that Ryan referenced. There you go. And we've done many projects through the SRF program, which I know is where a lot of your funds are coming from, so we know their requirements and things that they would be looking for as well.
Questions?
Yes, can you, this is great, we have the scope and we have this, what would your process of review look like? Take us through how you would work with, like, is it gonna do a workshop? How's that workshop structured? Like, what actual processes do you use in the review?
We would have a team of people on my staff, and we would break up the project into key components, the different processes within the plant, assign one person to each of those processes, and then we would review these, and then if we had any key questions that we needed input from JTL, your designer, we would probably schedule a virtual meeting to kind of go through questions. That way our final document is more complete. That way we don't have to submit that and then get some things answered. If there's some things that we can get answered midpoint, then we could address that in the final document. And then at the end, you know, given the time constraints, the process is not going to be too drawn out, but our initial review, then have a meeting with the designers to talk through questions we had, and then finalize our document with, and it would be broken up into kind of questions and recommendations, and then suggestions about maybe how to do things different that you might want to consider before you put it out for bid.
If time was not a factor, how long would it take you to do something like this and include the electrical and structural?
We could probably include those, and what would be great is if we could meet with the staff too, you know, and at the site, and meet with JTL before we did any review, and just kind of have them kind of say, here's what we've done, here's our thought process to this point, and then we take it over, do our review, and then have a mid briefing. And that would give us more time. I mean, the time constraints is real.
Right.
I'd say if we had 60 to 90 days, it'd be really good. I mean, and we could include electrical as well.
Okay. And if we were to include the electrical and structural, do you have an idea about what that would do to the cost?
Structural we do in-house. Our structural guys are swamped, so the time constraint was the real issue on that. I'd have to check with our electrical sub, but I think we could probably include both of those for another 10 to 15.
Okay.
I can firm that up if you'd like me to.
Total or a piece?
Total.
So we're looking at no more than 50,000 for the whole thing?
I would say yes. Yes.
Um,
Structural I can control, electrical I can't.
Right, I
So
understand.
I can beat our guys down a little bit, but.
Yeah.
I guess, so to the board, my gut, like, I know we're trying to bid in March, I mean, I understand that, but I also know that, you know, we're still trying to talk about some potential other funding, you know, I'm still taking a look at that. At the RDA, for instance, the meeting we had last time, they announced that all the funds have been allocated, but not all of the ready funds have been obligated yet, meaning they all haven't been through the recheck diversity on an IDC for like final approval. And so there's a hard deadline for that to happen. And what they've done is River Hills has sent back out to those of us that have been obligated and said, what else do you need? Because if these other projects don't finish their obligation and there's money still available, it has to be allocated or obligated by June or
Yes.
or June.
Yeah.
And so there's a chance that if some money becomes available, we could still get maybe more money from Ready. I mean, so there are other opportunities we're still looking at. So I don't think it's completely unreasonable that we might, I mean, we've even talked to SRF about we might not bid in March or we might have a longer bid period or whatever. I would feel better about engaging someone to do value engineering if they were looking at the structural and the electrical, since the electrical and the structural are such a major part of this project. And I understand I would be asking the board to spend more money on that engineering, but I think finding that balance between getting a really good product and review and paying for that product and review and getting the best amount, best document for our resources and our expense would be a really good idea. Plus, when you're looking at the process of review, I guess I'm concerned because when you said that you review processes, you know, we're at 100% design and we've invested $2.3 million to get to 100% design. I guess my fear would be if they don't take the time to have that workshop with JTL first, before you, if I just give you a plans, if I just hand you the stack of plans that are this big at this point, and you look at it and you say, well, they're doing fine bubble aeration basins, maybe they should do oxidation ditches. Well, we've already spent $2.3 million designing fine bubble aeration because we already looked at the possibility of doing oxidation ditches and we didn't want to go down that path. I would feel better with a workshop where they met first with JTL to hear why JTL designed what they did, because there may be context there that could be very relevant to the review for our specific situation that just getting the plans won't show you. And then you could review the plans and then come back to JTL and have time to meet with staff. That's what I want to see out of value engineering.
You would get a better product if
That's-
you're able to do it that way.
That would be my personal preference for how we would, I think we would get the better value engineering from that kind of process rather than cutting down the scope just to save some money and not getting a better product.
I don't disagree with you at all.
I mean, we're talking about a $40 to $44 million build.
If I may ask a question, is the March requirement because of when SRF wants you to close?
No, we have not put into SRF yet. We were going to try to get into the spring pool, but then I think we've decided to put it in the summer pool.
Okay.
And JTL is here, they can talk through that deadline a little bit more, but I mean, I guess I'm looking at Lori and Jim, would it significantly harm our bid to be able to allow a 60 to 90 day, or at least a 60-day review?
I think like you were saying, it's a cost benefit at that point. And if you are going to attempt, if you're gonna be willing to sit here and say, we did value engineering, then you need to do it the appropriate way to have it done. It needs to be done completely. It doesn't need to be, we're gonna value engineer, but we're gonna rush and just only do this little bit.
Right.
Like, that's just not a true picture then,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
I
I know you
would
agree,
agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so Jim can speak more on that because he's got
Yeah,
value engineering certification, whatever.
Yeah, and
All
I think
his
the
things.
other thing is, yeah, I've done this on a national level, and Glenn Dyker and everybody's been reviewing my plans, but what we need to do is establish why we decided on what we did. We did some preliminary engineering, we put together costs for retrofitting the existing plant, or oxidation ditches, or fine bubble, and we chose down the fine bubble for energy conservation. But some of the things we need to make sure that we're aligned with is like their cost assumptions. We're using different cost assumptions for energy power because they have to look not just on capital costs, but the impacts to operating cost also. So it's a process. We need to provide them a lot of data so they can look at that data. And if they don't agree, you know, we're using $1,000 a cubic yard for slab construction or whatever our number is, you know, we want to make sure that they're using the same numbers, so we're seeing apples to apples comparisons on that. So there's a lot of prep work up front for us, and then once once they do their recommendations, they give it to us, we'll review it. Sometimes we accept their recommendations, sometimes we'll accept their recommendations with modifications. We'll say, yeah, we like this part of it, but we suggest that. And that's gonna take us a few weeks to go through that evaluation, and then we have to look at, and they have to evaluate, is this a redesign, and what's that cost to redesign? Let's say, and I'm just throwing something up, this is $100,000 savings, but it cost us $15,000 to redesign, and it increases energy costs by 1%. You know, all those factors have to be accounted for when you do your value engineering analysis to get that true picture. But I'm more than happy to participate in this and give them the data and tell them all our thoughts. Even like belt filter presses, you know, we decided on that technology because of the issues related to your sludge storage ponds, and it gives you the ability, and at some point you're gonna have to deal with that 2,000 tons of solids in that thing. So we made decisions on some equipments for some other ancillary issues out there, and they need to be aware of that when they do their review.
So let me ask this. We had originally said we wanted to bid middle of March, or put the bids out
Advertise.
middle of March.
Advertised
Advertise to bid middle of March. And then we're gonna do a 45-day bid process?
Yes.
Yes.
There are, looking at my calendar, there are 10 weeks between now and our first April meeting. If we bump that bid call out by just 2 weeks, no?
So, because, as I say, you have permitting before that.
Right.
So if you remember, we were planning to submit the permit application by February 1st, so that technically they have 90 days to review. Like we've said, you know, we've talked with them along the way, and we believe that we should be able to have initial comments back within 45 days. And we did not feel comfortable going to bid until we at least had the first initial review comments back, to help avoid, you know, any costly addendums and things that may end up causing somebody to be like, fine, we're just gonna mark this up by this and not have to worry about it.
So my question then, I guess, is like, do we have time to do this and bid? I mean.
It changes where you're gonna bid.
Right, that's what I mean.
Because we would have to get through all of this and then submit the permit application. So you're looking at least 45 days at a minimum beyond permit application submission before we could go to bid. Or comfortably go to bid.
Okay.
Is SRF your only funding source?
No. That's what we're looking at right now to fund the gap, but we have grants and other things in place.
Another thing that I don't know, and Ryan, this may be, you know, we have, you know, along the way, he just said that, and that just made me think of it too. You know, we've had other parties' eyes on this along the way, getting opinions and ideas, and I don't know if that would be helpful. I'm thinking about how we could try to best of both worlds, right? Would it be helpful for us to present to you all parties that have been involved as far as these were designers, but then these were other reviewers from, you know, because he just said,
Rod Reardon.
yeah, I mean, he's got other people from other places that have been, you know, would that help you to understand, you know, different things where then maybe they're looking at just this part might be okay because.
Have you had anybody look at electrical and structural?
We've had, Jim has had everybody look at everything.
Yeah, we haven't, specifically electrical, we haven't had a secondary review of electrical.
If I can, I mean, that's what I'm nervous about. Like,
I'm honestly, I love the idea of slowing it down and doing this properly. I brought the time constraint to HWC
Sure.
based off conversations we had,
If you have not submitted for permits yet, well, you don't necessarily have to have a permit in hand. A project of this size, it would probably be better to have the permit in hand before you have bids, because, you know, I understand what they're saying, and I've done this before, is you get that first comment letter, you feel like that's probably everything that they're going to come back with, but you never know about IDEM. Sometimes they can come back, you know, your first response might generate more questions. Project this size, I would probably wait till I had permit in hand to bid.
Well, our idea was to get the first comments and have the permits in hand before we bring award and before we finish the bidding process. Like I say, we've been working with the state agency all along. They know what we're designing. We do have a couple of unique things that haven't been used to reduce energy, like the bubble compression, the bubble mixing systems in this plant. And we've made sure that they understand that this wasn't a first time for them. And we actually went into Richmond, Indiana, and looked at a system they had there. So we made sure that the state was aware of what we were designing and that there wasn't any big issues. On Sellersburg, I used the first, they hadn't seen the BDP screw presses, and I had to show them that they had, 45 installations throughout the U.S. and show them that was a justifiable piece of equipment, but we've already kind of gone through that with them.
Okay, so in your scope, we have the deadline of the 28th of February. If we were to request that you expand your scope to include the electrical and structural and have a initial meeting with JTO first, could you confidently say that you could have that done by March 31st? It's adding a month.
Exactly.
I mean, I realize that it's not 60 to 90 days, it's closer to 60, but I realize we've been pushing it. But
The big question again is electrical, because that's a sub.
Sure.
If we had another 30, I could say, yeah, we could meet that, but I know that's pushing things.
Well, my other concern here is we're under an agreed order, and we have a compliance plan in place that we have days, we have deadlines, we have quarterly reports, we have to, and targets.
That's the most important thing. Is there a deadline to bid on that?
And that's the problem. So Lori, what is the deadline to bid on the compliance plan?
Q1.
Yeah, so can we get that adjusted? Can we, if we approach IDEM and we say, hey, we know that we said this, however, we
can
really
definitely-
are at a point where we need to do some value engineering and we're not ready to submit this. Will they have some graciousness with us and let us do Q2 maybe?
I can't speak to the
I understand.
graciousness that they
Right.
may extend or not.
Right.
But I can say we can always attempt to have the conversation and
It's been my experience
hopefully,
with
yeah,
them
they've-
throughout this process,
Right.
that as long as we remain in communication with them and we have a reason why we're asking for an amendment, they have been
Right.
very willing to work with us, so.
Right.
I would, I think if there's a way that we could tentatively get it done by the end of March, then that would not hold us back too terribly bad.
I could
Except
make,
Lori's telling me that it probably will.
So I'm sorry to just keep talking here too, but thinking like, again, full timeline then. So we do the value engineering complete workshop as it, really should be done. And then, so what, we're looking at 90 days there, say if we do it the way we'd really
Correct.
like to. So even if it was, from now, so February, March, April. And then we have to rewrite the PER, which that has to be reviewed and submitted, and we'll have to go through environmental, archaeological, just the PER portion then becomes the issue with SRF too, so.
that's kind of a worst case, I guess.
Yeah, right, that's like worst case.
If we find something that requires a change to the PER,
Yeah.
that would be worst case.
We
Hopefully
would
it's-
not be able to hit summer pool at all then. But that becomes a question of, again, how you guys want to handle it.
And I think we could have a discussion with Eric on like structural. I think from my standpoint, there's a couple of things on the structural elements that really need to be reviewed. We're going with metal buildings, is block construction. So there's some things we could point him to that I even have some questions. There's some new codes on structural safety factors that have impacted our aeration basins. Unfortunately, our walls have gotten pretty thick, but those kind of things, I think rather than, and Eric, we could review this with you, is rather than doing the whole structural review, we could probably
Pinpoint.
pinpoint some areas that we even, you know, take a check on this, make a look at these, there's some questions there on the electrical system. We could even do some reduction in scope by identifying those pieces
Where to
which are
focus the effort.
high valued, like he doesn't need to look, you know, MCCs, you know, what our motor control centers, do we need that? But how we're doing the electrical system, we're providing emergency generators. Do we want to look at 2 substation feeds versus emergency generators? Those kind of things we could really pinpoint down, probably optimize or narrow that review, not to look at
Well,
everything.
so it sounds like, I mean, even with the original scope that's presented here, if you guys need to submit a permit by February 1st, even with the original scope, this is gonna slow us down. And I'm okay with that. I mean, this board has an obligation to not just our ratepayers, but to our council as well,
Yes.
to make sure that we are absolutely 100% sure that when we ask them to sign off, when we ask the council to sign off on a bond amount, with whatever's left on this plant, that we have done our absolute 100% due diligence to make sure that we're building the most responsible plant that we can build, financially and elsewise, processes it all. I think that this would be a very important move to demonstrate to the council that we're aware of any concerns they might have in this large scope of the project, and we want to be responsible with that. So I almost think we have to ask IDEM for grace
Sure.
on that compliance plan and adjustments. I think we do have to slow down. I mean, we're going to build a wastewater treatment plant. We know that.
Right.
And we know that it's going to be, you know, a 4 million gallon facility, and we have a rough idea about how that's gonna work and all, but I think that even if this slows it down, I mean, based on the development we have coming in, we could successfully cushion a 6 to 9 month slowdown on this and still be okay. And on an investment of this magnitude, I think we almost have an obligation to do that.
We should rush through.
That's just my opinion.
I can't speak for the state, but from what I've seen on compliance plans, if you, as long as you don't repeatedly ask for extensions, if you ask for one and have a good reason and you're this far into it that you're committed to doing the work that will bring you into compliance, they'll normally grant you some schedule relief to do something like this where it's making sure you're doing it right.
And this also plays into some of the other funding sources that we have discussed and the need to potentially slow down for those as well. So one of the things I've been talking, I said this last time, I've met with River Hills to potentially have them submit an application to the EDA on our behalf. And that was one of the concerns is, you know, we had a meeting with our EDA rep, and he said, well, if you do this, it will slow you down a bit. But guys, we're talking about, you know, potentially up to $3 million, and when we're chipping away at the cost of this plant,
We want to slow it down.
it's, you know, $3 million is a little over half of the electrical needs from the building this plant. So, I know we feel this urgency to get the plant done because we feel the pressure from the growth of River Ridge and all those things. But I think we would be remiss as a group if we caved to the urgency at the cost and sacrifice of making a hasty, expensive decision that we didn't have to make. So I would really like to see the scope include the electrical and the structural, but I would really like to keep that about 40,000.
I think we can get there. Yeah.
Because I can pay for that comfortably. We can pay for that comfortably out of our budget. If we could get a scope of 40,000 for that and slow that down and do the, if we could split it maybe somewhere between 60 and 90 days, that would be good.
So you're on the same track I am. What was in my mind is we keep the contract 40,000 max and have it by April 15th.
I think that's
I
doable.
think that's
Would-
doable.
When would you meet again where you could approve the amended
I think we can approve that now, can't we? If
We can approve it pending
Based off-
those amendments,
yeah.
assuming it came through. They could, what the board could do, Bo is the expert here, I don't want to speak for him. Could the board authorize me to execute a scope amended as stated?
Yes.
So if we can get that assurance from you, then they can just authorize me to execute it. When you get it over to me, I can execute it.
I have to first week.
Okay, and then Lori, you,
Would it be worthwhile, for us to reach out to IDEM, just kind of find out what their flexibility is gonna be, how willing, kind of where they're gonna let us, and then let us collaborate with Eric on the full scope of this to make sure we're getting all the things. That way we can help him refine, if it needs to include those specific things, we can help do that. So he's comfortable with what they're doing, so we all have, so we're all on the collective team of getting this thing done.
well, I think IDEM is a big component, because
Right.
if they come back and they say, absolutely not, you definitely have to bid first quarter, then that's a game changer.
Right.
But I don't think it affects our ability to go ahead and authorize me to execute an
Right.
agreement, because what we're really doing is setting the amount
Mhm.
with the understanding that it will include a comprehensive review of,
Right. That was more a question of just,
yeah.
would you all like for us to do
Yes,
that?
and I think,
that
I
way
think
we
we
can
need
help.
to do that today.
Yes.
I think after this meeting,
I'll
you
call
need to
them
call
all.
IDEM immediately and say, I need an answer on this ASAP.
Yeah.
That we have this issue, we want to have this review, and we need to adjust our compliance plan to allow us to bid at a later date.
Who's your case manager?
It just changed,
Oh,
so we
So,
have a new one
okay.
that hasn't been incredibly responsive, but we still have been able to reach out to our old one and generate some more timely responses.
Sometimes that makes a difference.
So,
so then
I'll
I
make
would,
that call
I
when
would,
we
I
leave.
guess at this point, I would entertain a motion to allow me as president to execute an amended scope that includes the structural engineering review with an amount not to exceed $40,000.
Structural.
And electrical.
And electrical,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean engineering, I meant electrical.
Control.
And controls.
Yeah, that's lumped in with electrical.
Yeah, so let me rephrase, I would
Subject to
entertain.
legal review as well.
You wanna write this out before I
Go
say
ahead,
this?
Bo, make the motion.
Go ahead, Bo, make a motion. All right, I
Hold up
need,
the flashcards.
I would, no, I don't need flashcards on this motion.
Prompter.
Heavens, I would need a motion that would authorize me as president of this board to execute an amended scope with HWC Engineering to provide the full value engineering that would include the electrical control and structural review in an amount not to exceed $40,000 pending final legal review.
And complete by April 15th.
Hopefully complete by April.
I'll make that motion.
If you make me say that again.
From the top.
I have a motion to approve the amended scope from Ryan Hoskins.
I'll second that.
Nathan's like, I second it. I have a second from Nathan. Any other questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so Lori, if you will immediately, as soon as it's over email, call IDEM and say, hey, here's where we are. And then Eric, if you will follow up with us on that, I would appreciate it. And my email address is super simple, it's just mayor@cityofcharlestown.com.
Okay.
If you want to send that, when you get that amended over to me.
And now that we've got a little more time to complete this, I'll put a little bit about the process in the scope.
Great,
about
I would-
me
yes.
having a kickoff meeting with JTL.
Yes, I would love that.
Okay,
Yeah, I think this whole board would love that.
okay,
Eric,
Thank
for
you
your time.
for your
Okay.
time. I
thank
appreciate
you.
it. All right.
Here's my card, okay, and I'll get you the third structural.
Sometimes it's easier to slow things down, but
I think so.
We have-
I think that's where we are.
I mean, everybody's looking at
Like,
it as
I
a
can get you-
project that's gonna last forever.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
it's worth it.
I agree. New business.
We're not signing that, I don't think.
No, he's gonna amend it and send me an amended. Yes, he's gonna amend it and send me an amended, and when he does, I'll get it. When they amend that, do they need the full board signature or just me? Because he's got everybody, all the board members on it. We have to chase people
Technically,
down.
you authorize just.
Yeah, they authorize just
so
me.
we can-
So Eric, when you send that scope over, when you send that new scope over, you don't have to include the other board members' signatures. You
Just put
have to
yours on there.
sign,
Okay.
because they've authorized me as president to sign that. so.
Okay, I'll have that amended.
Okay. All right, now, moving on to new business. Our operator, Tim Crawford, is out, so Seth Burton, one of our laborers, key laborers, is going to present our operator report this month.
Good morning. Just got a real quick overview of the December monthly report. First and foremost, we were in compliance for the month of December. Our facility process has experienced some increased stress due to the heavy amounts of short duration rainfall. The rainfall events and saturated ground conditions have increased detrimental effects to the treatment process. Our primary efforts and goal in the upcoming months is to continue to better control our solids inventory and improve our settleability as a clarifier. We were able to remove 28.6 tons of biosolids in the month of December. That's about it for the plant. As far as the collection system goes, we had 124 locates, 14 of those were emergency. Our lift stations were inspected weekly during the entire month of December. We had 9 rainfall events during that month. The largest one was on December 6th. It was 1 inch of rain. Our total amount of rainfall for the month was 3.2 inches. We were able to flush 565 linear feet of main due to call-outs. Other than that, we were not able to get any televising done.
Is that largely a staff issue?
That is, yes. Our utility continues to operate fairly well. It's difficult to ensure all maintenance tasks are accomplished with the lack of staff that we have, falling into that lack of television. Other than that, the utility continues to be budget-minded and strives for proactivity versus reactivity. That's about all we got for you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? We did have quite a few downpours there
Oh,
the
yeah.
past few days, so they were really hopping. They had a main break or something somewhere, didn't we?
Yes, down and off Charlestown, Memphis Road. Or-
Yeah, I think you're right, yeah. Okay, thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
And then Tim is going to bring at the next, we had that issue with the main over on Denham where, I don't know if you recall, in the previous operator, we had a line collapse right after we paved Denham Lane, we had that line collapse. And we do need to eventually, we kind of had put that aside for the time being, but we do need to get proactive about fixing those manholes and repairing, getting that line a little more stable. So Tim had put out some requests to some companies to do that, and he and Tony actually looked at those bids yesterday. He'll be presenting those probably in the next meeting, but they were high. I'll just go ahead and warn you to be prepared, they were high. I think the lowest was somewhere around 80, and the range from like 80 to 200,000. So, but Tim will have all that for us at the next meeting as well. So. And then we have our engineering report.
I don't have a whole lot to cover, thankfully, which is nice, because I think we just covered the majority of it. I will reach out to IDEM
Okay.
the second I hit the car.
Great.
And we'll let you know what they say. They have been very gracious and very good to work with us, and we have enjoyed it very much.
No, they have been really good. I mean, they really have been great, so.
Yeah, so everything on our end is moving along well. We have just been, again, drilling through the plans, kind of in a holding pattern at this point while we were waiting to see what we wanted to do next. And so we're in a really good place with the design. Again, value engineering is always, I can't think of a time where it's never been, at least a decent idea to explore. So that's always good. Everything else going well. I had a call yesterday with Jesse Ballew's representative regarding the easements and taking over the pump station. And I'm supposed to have another call with him within the next 48 hours to show him a better picture that was easier for him to see and understand. So we're moving forward still.
I can't bridge that gap if you give me that.
It really was, I guess they were caught up in some audit things, and he just said, I'm sorry, I'm just now getting back to you. I put off all the things that I felt I could put off, and I'm coming back to them now.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, we definitely need to get that done up because we need to get IEW
Right.
connected.
So, working with him on that, and hopefully that's gonna be finalized promptly.
Okay.
The other thing I think you all have in front of you is our on-call work order.
Yeah, I had it as a different agenda item, but
Oh.
if you want to go ahead and present it, that's
Sure.
100% fine.
It's our on-call work order. It is the exact same copy paste. I think I changed the dates from last year to this year. It is what allows us to respond when you guys need, just questions, help with different things, review the permit applications for different people, all the people that are trying to build around here, all the things like that. So it is, again, for that hourly, not to exceed $50,000 value. That's what we've done the last few years. So,
Needs to have a fee schedule attached to it.
Yeah.
I'll send that over.
Do you want to wait till you get the fee schedule, Nathan, or do you want to?
Just need to have one before we sign it, I would think.
Okay.
Want me to do it, but we just need to have a fee schedule attached to it.
Sure.
So before we approve, can you present this at the next?
I sure can.
So can I get a motion to table the work order for now? Okay, so I have a motion by Ryan to table the work order,
Second.
pending attachment of the fee schedule. I have a second from Nathan. All in favor of tabling to next meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So we'll get that fee schedule attached and we'll take that up in at our next meeting.
Do you guys have any other questions for me about any of the things?
Any other things?
Any of the things? Oh, Jim? has
Yeah,
something.
now all I wanted to, Brian, I know we gave you plans and specs
Yes.
in a dump. We're continually modifying those and making them clear for bidding purposes. So when we get to the point of a BE, we'll give them our updated. But then also on the cost, I know there's been some questions about the reasonableness of our cost, and I just wanted to let you know, we've reached out to 2 regional construction firms, and they're doing value engineering and review of our cost on that. We've received one back. There were some minor modifications in concrete costs on a couple of structures, and the big impact was about a $300,000 increase in our grading and drainage costs, and we're working through those numbers with them. We expect probably early next week to have the second regional contractor is going to give their opinion on costs. They're not looking at equipment costs because we get those quotes from suppliers every time, but they're looking at yard piping, they're looking at our electrical, they're looking at our structural costs on all those things, and they're giving us opinions. So once I get that, by the next meeting, I'm hoping to have an updated cost estimate from you with their value reviews and their quantity. They're looking at what numbers we're using for concrete and yard, how much we can move, because we use a lot of different data points that we have. So just wanted to let you know, we have reached out to a couple of contractors to validate our costs.
That's awesome.
Anything else you guys think?
During my trip to HWC, we brought up Spring Street.
Mhm.
They had some comments about Spring Street. I was trying to move that forward a little bit too, as well, if we
Sure.
can. Eric, do you mind touching on that a little bit, based on what we kind of talked about last week?
The flow meeting results that we got from last year, as we showed in our report, showed some very high flows, which if we were going to look at any type of regional lift station, which is kind of how we got involved in looking at some of the Shadow Lake areas, you were going to be really oversizing those facilities because of wet weather impacts. I know I know some inflow sources have been found, some pretty big ones from what I heard. I think there would be a need to do some additional metering to maybe be able to now right size or revise that sizing. And there's also some discrepancies from the old 90s as-bills to what appears to be in place now as far as piping, that maybe we could all talk together about, maybe see where it might be best to put some additional flow metering and then revisit that regional lift station option. Because if you were able to pull some significant flow out of there, we might get some better results and make it more feasible.
So how do we move that forward?
So, which, you mentioned that there, we found some infiltration. Is this, are you aware of these spots?
The repair spots that he's talking
Right.
about? Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so we did know about those. Tim had presented those. There were a couple manholes over by the high school. Name of the street maybe starts with
Okay.
a B,
Yep,
and now I can't remember which one.
Bohart.
Yes.
And then, yes,
That one.
okay.
And he said since
I
they
thought,
had.
I thought for a minute I didn't know something was going on. I was like, wait a minute, what? But I'm yes, I'm with you
So
now.
we got together on the weekend and went out with our
Right,
shovels and
right.
we fixed some things.
Okay, right.
But so he
I believe there was
said,
also an 8-inch direct connection from a ditch as well.
Yes, I think they found that.
yeah,
So-
they found that, and these are things that we have been talking about and, Tim has been actively addressing those.
Okay.
And has seen improvements during storm times, that there are not then those active
Gotcha.
overflows coming out.
Seth, do you have any information on this, or you just want to be left out of it for now?
I
Are you?
believe we're talking about the manholes by the ball field on Monroe.
And over where we did Bohart, and there's another one.
Okay.
We actually had gone back and put those in the compliance plan, so I can probably.
Oh, great, okay, so, but you've been working towards an active solution to deal with these, and you think now would be.
We're trying to narrow down some of the areas where we have, in the inspection report and in the agreed order, they had pointed out some specific manhole numbers that had caused repeated overflows.
Right,
And a couple of these, we
Right.
feel have remedied those
Okay.
overflow areas.
gotcha,
And so because of those remedies, then they may also then provide, be solutions that would lead to different results in flow monitoring,
So
which
are-
is something we've
are
talked
we at a
about.
point where we need to redo the flow monitoring for
Um,
that location? I mean, I wouldn't think system-wide, right, just for that?
I think just for the lift station, yes.
I think you could do it, and I think we're approaching the same time of year that we did it, and that was one of the things that we had also talked to Tim about, was, because we were talking about it, I guess, we were having the conversation, well, I remember, it was in November, and we were like, you wouldn't really be comparing apples to apples at that point, you'd want to try to do it at the same time of year, so you could expect, hopefully,
Sure.
I guess you never know here, but hopefully you would expect a similar season, similar weather patterns, similar situations occurring that would give you, that more even keel comparison versus doing it in, a dry November when, right, like, that's not gonna help you in flow monitoring when that's not what we were looking at before.
So Ryan, to answer your question, how do we move forward? And I think when Tim's back, I need to say to Tim, okay, get us some flow monitoring, get before this board with some flow monitoring, with the project, and let's get that authorized and get that set up for that lift station.
I think we could collaborate on where he would want to put those meters.
Okay.
And then we could get that to him and move forward from
Okay,
there.
he's out today and tomorrow, but I will go ahead when we get done and go ahead and send him an email so it's in his inbox when he gets back. Hopefully he won't check it when he's gone. And ask him to follow up with you.
Sure.
Do you have a card?
I have his info, so I can look
Okay.
us all
I
together.
can loop you. Lori, why don't you just send that email then?
Can do.
Since you've got his contact information, just email Tim and include and just say, hey, we need to get this before the board at their next meeting. Have a
Right.
plan, how much it's going, because I want to know how much it's going to cost.
Right.
If it's less than 5,000, you're good to go, but if it's not, then we're gonna need to approve. I know, don't make that face. And let's make sure that, one of the issues we had with the flow monitoring last time was it
We
took
won't
an
be
awful
using- we won't
long
be using the
time
same
to
company.
get the data, so
We
we
will
could
not
not use the same
Be
company.
using the same
Okay.
company,
That was a problem.
period.
I don't want to have to wait
Say it a little louder.
6 months to get the data.
No.
You can use it, there are companies, and I know there's one in Louisville that'll do it, that you can rent a meter month to month.
Okay.
In the spring, if we get 1 or 2 months of data, we ought to have what we need.
Yeah.
Gotcha, great. Okay,
So I'll take care of that, I'll get us an email
Great.
going.
I'll
Because,
send you the map with the questions we
Okay.
have on the piping.
perfect,
All right.
because that was one of the things, again. tied
And then
back
that would
in-
enable us to do the modeling
Yes.
appropriate. Okay,
I
great.
mean, it would add even better value at that
I
point.
think it's great.
But also that helps check a box, on our monthly reporting to, IDEM for preventive maintenance plans as well.
Gotcha. All right.
Appreciate it.
Anything else?
You got anything?
I'm good.
Dawn, you got anything you need from us?
Nope, thank you.
Anything from Lauren? Okay.
Thanks.
Bo? We're good? Always like it when I get a thumbs up from the attorney. All right, if there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Guys, don't compete over it. I have a motion for Ryan, a second for Nathan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.